are you, brother?
I'm fantastic, brother.
Thank you so
Good spirit.
Thank you so much for making this time. I really, really do appreciate it. And
No
as I
problem.
said, I've been a silent supporter for a long time now. I don't even know how I first encountered you. I just know you came across my Facebook feed, and you haven't left it since, really. So maybe just
You're a
introduce
fan of
yourself.
us, brother.
Yeah, no, man, definitely. So, yeah, introduce yourself to our viewers.
Yes, sir. So I'm Dean Okai Senior, the founder of AdPack. I like to summarily start businesses, whether they are civic in nature or entrepreneurial. For me, they're always both, because there's money in solving problems. And sometimes it's like the thing they say about hell with the long spoons and short arms. If you think you're just going to feed yourself with these long spoons, it doesn't always work like that. But if you see everything as an opportunity, there's money in everything. Refuse collection is one of the most useful businesses known to man. And we don't even think about it. So when you're paying your council tax, your rates, you're paying for refuse collection. In business, you pay your rate plus refuse collection. So God bless that. But in essence, I always want to deliver for the 20-year-old version of me, and possibly younger. So that is what brought about Manage Now, as I closed the business off 10 years being on the high street. So this business now, it started off with me thinking about training young men, then a training course, but now I'm building that into a leadership business specifically for African Caribbean young men. Now, the clients don't pay, so it's my job to go out and find those who pay for our young men to receive the wisdom, and as you say, is old men for counsel and young men for war. So we want to prepare them to circumvent all of the learning curves that we came through. And you can't learn for anybody, but to say that experience is the best teacher is ridiculous. Otherwise, YouTube would be of no purpose, and it's the greatest university on earth. So even that, we started the Manage Masterclass last Friday with Samuel Akinwin, who's a property developer, who let us know how his cognitive problem-solving problems came into place. Now, he started in a very different place as a street pharmacist, and went on holiday, a teaching degree later, and then 3 more degrees after that. He is now a property developer with a business where we keep saying guys like this don't exist because we're not supposed to exist. So it is to shine a light on brothers like this, and also the cognitive problem solving skills, coping mechanisms, and just a different way of thinking, and their way of working, and how they evolved into that, just to give exposure. So I'm finished, sir. I'm sure you have some questions.
I mean, where do I start? I guess the first thing is just your drive, right? Where does that come from? Because whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's your businesses, like whatever I see, it's a vibe that I feel of just intensity, but positive intensity, and just relentless drive. Like, why is I guess is the question. How and why?
Well, we are the how, because I don't spend time around anybody else, and we fill my battery. That thing of spirit, we definitely underestimate, because while we're pushing everything externally, we have souls. And our souls are very powerful. You said it in the beginning about us being very spiritual. As Africans, we were always spirit first. Spirit is everything. And anyone who doesn't believe that, you look at a man sitting in a car with the hood up, looking frustrated. Would you go and push the car? I wouldn't. Spirit is everything. But if I saw a guy pushing his car from the back, and I was even on my way to a meeting and wearing a suit, I'd roll up my sleeves and join him, and I might not even realize why.
Wow.
Spirit, that's the power of spirit.
Yeah.
And momentum is exciting.
Yeah.
So when we say birds of a feather flock together, I spend time around people of momentum. And that's a kinetic effect that keeps all of our batteries lit.
Absolutely love it. Love it, love it, love it. So tell us, okay, I've pinned ADPAC down there. Tell us what ADPAC stands for and what's going on with that.
Yes, sir. So this is the African Diaspora Public Affairs Committee, which is really an umbrella, because we keep talking about we need an umbrella to bring every organization together. I don't start so much with the personalities, because now I'm trying more and more to extrapolate my personality. We've had a lot of organizations that have so-called charismatic leaders, and it doesn't necessarily work. Even the godfather of our ancestors, the Honorable Marcus Garvey, could be betrayed if he were in a problem where, like he was character assassinated, the entire organization fell by the wayside.
Yeah.
Now, ADPAC is designed to be not only a democratic organization, but an institution that outlives any of its founders, initial members, partners, that can go on for perpetuity. It's like if Boris had passed when he allegedly had COVID-19, the Conservative Party wouldn't have skipped a beat. In fact, they may have had a small party, but the actual institution would have continued.
Yeah.
So although I'm the founder, I'm not the chairman. And we do have a chairman, which is why I took so long to come to market, because I needed that unique individual who had experience inside the halls of politics, who was definitely one of us and a true advocate for us, not like what I call some of us as aspirers to cross the bridge, and only in their failings in their career do they make their lowly way down to us down here, where they'll tell you that's too black. Well, I'm not black, I'm an African. And you can't tell somebody that's too African any more than you can tell somebody that's too Chinese. It sounds ridiculous.
Love it, love it. No, I think you said something massive there. I think you said something massive there that I want people to kind of hold on to. This idea of kind of beginning with the end in mind, right? You to think that through, of thinking, you know, because most people would think, all right, let me start this, let me get this moving, and then we'll worry about succession, we'll worry about what happens after me later down the line. But you've actually built that into the beginning, and I think that's massively just impactful, even on me as I think about the different projects that I run. It's about thinking of longevity, because a true leader is someone that builds something that can outlast them. I mean, that has to be a mark of a true leader, right? It just kind of has to be. And so I think that is big. And how did that revelation kind of come to you in terms of building it in that specific way from the beginning? Can you think of a moment when you thought, with this, no, I need to do this? Can you think of when that came to you?
Absolutely. So the first thing I have been working on, the tireless battle, is to extrapolate my ego from anything that I'm doing to do with the community now. And that's a battle for any man who is self-assured. That's taken 4 years. And my ego will always be there.
Yeah.
And it will always be my arch nemesis in terms of me facing the world. But as a historian, I have to observe and learn from Sankofa. I look back, I see our ancestors, and as an analyst, I'm aware of what hasn't worked traditionally. So being highly aware of what hasn't worked, one, I'm not going to duplicate, because I'm not just a historian. I'm a 21st century Garveyite. So as a 21st century Garveyite, I would be remiss to not learn the lessons that were taught at great expense.
Wow.
Great expense to the brothers and sisters' personal lives, who sacrificed a lot for me to be able to accumulate the wisdom that I have. So then I just look for longevity. And at this point, it's about creating systems, automation, and also platforms for us that work exclusively for and on behalf of the African diaspora in the UK. And there's 3 million of us. So it's nothing small. If you think that's a minority or that's a population you can't do anything with, God help you.
Listen, that's bigger than the population of the whole of Jamaica right now. I think Jamaica's probably 2.5 million right now. So yeah, no, that's huge. That's huge. Wow. Okay, so there's so much we could go, so many different directions we can go with this. What is your greatest aspiration and hope for ADPAC?
My greatest aspiration for ADPAC is that in 2 years' time, I could be sitting on my compound in Ghana and nobody would remember me. And ADPAC would be running completely fluidly with 250,000 members subscribed at £5 a month so that we could generate the revenue to pay staff real wages, pay our operational costs, and purchase commercial freeholds to convert into schools, chambers of commerce, and community centres in every area where we have a chapter. So we'd want to establish a chapter everywhere we have strong numbers so that we can experience true self-determination. So as we purchase those buildings in trust and then we act as sovereigns, we're aware of what sovereignty is. You can't become a sovereign as an individual because we're not bulletproof. But you can become a sovereign community of 100 operating in common law. God's law, common law, legislative law. Legislative law is at the bottom. It's for the great unwashed. Those who are aware live in this rarefied atmosphere of common law with trust and sovereignty. So just to give you an example, the Guinness Trust, the Guinness family, who were making millions because Irishmen like to drink Guinness and build roads. So when you're sitting on top of all these millions and you sit down with your accountant and say, I'm paying far too much in tax, what do? Well, we're going to set up a trust and we're going to donate all of that money to the trust. Well, it's so much money, what do we do with it? Let's buy property and rent it out and not pay tax on any of that. Beautiful. It's just systems. And those systems create generational wealth. So in case anybody's worried, we have written that only indigenous Africans can be on the Constitution as executives, directors, and indigenous Africans in technical terms are merely melanated people. So no, Charlize Theron is not an African, neither is Elon Musk. They are Africans. Let's not get confused.
Oh, dude, I love it, man. I love it. And it's you know, it's why I think this resonates with me so much as well is because, you know, as I'm getting older, I'm only 33 at the moment, but as I'm getting older and I've got 3 young children, all 6 and under. Thank you. It's just becoming more apparent to me and more I'm becoming more aware of the fact that knowing just more about myself and my people it's just important, right? It just is. And it's difficult to pass on things to my children that I don't know myself, but I know I don't know, if you know what I mean. I know I'm unaware. And I guess that's the first step. And that's why I'm going to be stalking you for the rest of my life. I'm just letting you know, when you're on that compound in Ghana, I'll be on the compound next door, just so you know. I'm letting you know.
You're welcome. You're invited.
So, but no, it's just huge because, yeah, there's so much that we don't know. And, you know, you mentioned something earlier that I wanted to talk about, I guess, identifying as Black and as African. And this has been something that, for me, at the beginning of this month, I was starting to think about, and I sent an email to our list, and just talking about this idea of race being a construct, right? A societal kind of way of keeping us down, or at least that's how I perceive it. And really, if we can get back to this idea of...
I must stop you, sir.
Okay,
it's not your opinion.
Okay.
You are absolutely correct.
Okay.
And as African people, what we do sometimes is we say, I believe, or my opinion. It's not subjective. It's a universal fact.
Okay.
That any university on God's green earth will tell you is so. Please, don't let me cut you.
No, go on. You go on, in fact. Go on.
You see, the thing of it is, we've got to be highly intentional about what we do from this stage forward. We are one of the few ethnicities on earth who haven't realized that we live in a race-based global economy of their construct, not of ours. However, here we are. These are the rules of the planet as it stands, which is why their system is completely caving in on them.
Yeah.
Now, this is a reset. COVID-19, yes, there is a virus of some strength that is out there. We don't know how strong it is, how far wide reaching it is. We do know it's there. The beast that they have made to create fear so that we all stay home until we're absolutely destitute, and therefore reliant on them when they emerge from the ashes like a phoenix with their new system or new world order, which is based on technology and totalitarian state. So if we live in a fear-based paradigm, we're paralyzed by it. But what I'd say to anybody, if you're on a rope bridge and you see both ends coming unwound, don't, for God's sake, stand in the middle. Make a decision, go left or go right, but make a decision. And what is good for the goose is good for the gander. If we're in the middle of a reset, then we are also capable of incorporating our order, which is just for our self-determination, because our nature isn't to dominate other ethnicities until they have to live. In essence, African people just want to be left alone
Yes.
to enjoy what is ours.
Please.
And to be frank, we don't need much.
No.
Although some of us have appetites and desire much more. And why not?
Yeah.
Because our continent has provided us with all of it.
Yeah.
And even the islands we have found ourselves present us with all of the solutions we could desire.
Wow.
Until we follow capitalism so blindly that, like the greedy snake, waist deep in its own tail, won't realize until it's digesting its own body. And that is exactly what we're finding with this system right now. And therefore, you see the vanity of it. It's a superficial, hollow, three-dimensional construct, which is of really no value to conscious Africans.
Oh. So listen, and so the end that you're running to, and you're encouraging us to run to, the end of that metaphorical rope is towards this this self-determination, right?
It's an alternative.
It's an alternative. And
so
no, go ahead.
Unlike their alternative lifestyle, ours encompasses the traditional family. We have a cryptocurrency already.
Okay.
We're about to release a digital platform that has the capability to connect all of the national grassroots organizations that are service level organizations for us. So youth engagement, like rites of passage. And I will just mention the rites of passage because it is universally the best start that we can give our children. Rites of passage, the young people are exposed, and this is for boys and girls, are exposed to successful people from the community as role models. They're given a great framework for life and citizenship. Manhood Academy, Womanhood Academy, WYLA for boys and girls, Origin HQ for boys and girls, and MAG for boys and girls. And all 4 of them actually run parental classes as well, so that we can get the full benefit as a family in each of those avenues, so that it starts to build a community cohesion. So we love to keep talking about Eastern European people in Stamford Hill, but they go through a rites of passage, which is the bar mitzvah. Now it gives them a high cultural self-esteem. So why would we deny our children the same high cultural self-esteem and that virtuous start to their lives? So irrespective of racism, they will knit very strongly together. And even if we think about serious youth violence, it's very hard for a young man to take a 12-inch kitchen knife and stab his brother if for 4 years of his life he's announcing every my keeper and my sister's protector and going through exercises with them on a weekly basis for 4 or 5 years. The further away our generations get from our culture, our people, and assimilate, the more bestial we become. And you can see that with young people now. And I don't blame them. I blame us for the intergenerational gap. But to be fair, this is why I've established Manage with Partners to close that intergenerational gap. So all the marketing that I'm going to be putting out for Manage now is for young men. And before too long, we'll create the young ladies counterpart. And that must be designed by women.
Right.
To the arrogance of me saying, well, these guys I'm around. No. Men must design leadership for men. Women must design leadership for women in being leaders. And we can cross ideas, but our unique experience is what the teaching is about. And we do have very different experiences in this society. And that entrepreneurial and civic leadership teaches young men to circumvent the barriers of society and what it presents, because I don't suffer them. So it's to pass on to those young men what me and my training delivery partners have accomplished over the years. But I'm not even in the training. And even the masterclass we shoot like Vlad, where it's just the person disseminating their wisdom. So I've taken a step right back behind the scenes, and it's something to be made modular and scalable so that we can deliver it anywhere and keep growing.
Perfect. So good. So good. So tell us, let's go a bit into, you know, your personal story now. What led to this? What led to this? Have you always been on this journey, this trajectory? Or, you know, you said that a lot of things you do is inspired by what you would have liked your 20-year-old self to have known. Maybe tell us a bit about then your 19-year-old self. What was your 19-year-old self up to? And I don't know anything, so I'm not leading the horse to water. I don't know anything. No. So I'm literally asking.
My 19-year-old self was a contradiction in that I moved out of my mum's back to my old area, New Cross, where I went to school. And when my parents divorced, we moved to Kennington with my grandparents, and we continued to go to school in New Cross. I'm the oldest of 3, and I was taking my brother and sister from Kennington through Southwark to Lewisham to school in Deptford. And I just moved back the minute I could when I was 18 because I had money in my pocket.
Right.
It was very hard. I didn't say anything to my mum. I got a copy of the loot. I paid, I think my rent was £480 a month, something like that. 420, 480, I can't remember. This is back in 93. I had just under £900. I went and gave it to my landlord. I think that week I'd made another £800. And I went and bought my bed and bits.
Wow.
And me and my mum were talking on the Saturday, and I said, I'm moving out on Tuesday.
Wow.
I was surrounded by petty criminals in New Cross. Some of them went on to become more hardened criminals. But at the same time, whilst I was still living at my mum's when Stephen Lawrence was murdered. I joined Panther UK.
Right.
So when I say I represented the dichotomy that was petty criminals, but then I was giving lectures at the Brixton Rec.
Wow.
I was giving lectures at SOAS. I was giving lectures at Hammersmith and West College.
Wow.
In 94 when I was 19.
Wow.
And it happens that in 1995, I was selling pirate videos, weed. The police had knocked off my door, confiscated all of the videos from the pirate video business, but also all of the tapes of me talking for Panther UK. So that really represented the dichotomy that was Dean Okai at that time.
Wow.
But if I had had a mentor with the wisdom that I have now, I would have wasted a lot less time, because I still wasted a couple of years after that.
Wowzers, 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 wowzers. So Panther UK, you know what? It's weird. I didn't even knew that these things exist. But I wanted to also just to ask you about, why does it? Maybe this is you know, I'm asking now for an amateur psychology class, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Why is it that even as you're talking about kind of furthering our community, why do I feel an edge of apprehension? What's that about? Why don't I just feel within me just like, yes, let's go for it? I feel like 80-90%, let's go for this. And then I feel like there's just that 10%, like, is the society just that toxic that I have that slight bit of, do you know what I mean? That slight bit of, I don't know, I don't want to call it fear, but
apprehension.
You know, do you know what I'm referring to? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Is this? Let's not forget the impact that when Europeans make an example of somebody who stands up, they do it in the most bestial and brutal manner possible for it to sit in your subconscious mind. Remember, our subconscious mind is a dustbin. It just receives everything. Our conscious mind is usually so distracted by the bill paying and just our daily rudimentary tasks that they're separated. And I went on an exercise for about 2 years where I play materials at night to connect my conscious and subconscious mind. And then I understand what's even more powerful than that is the soul, which sits behind the subconscious mind and is far more powerful in its reach. It's like my nose for spirits is like Bisto kids. I know exactly who is in front of me at all times because spirits have a vibration. And the quieter you can make yourself, irrespective of if you use conversation for distraction like I do, you can always sense the temperature of the room and the nature of the spirits in front of you, irrespective of their uniform, their intellect, or what presentation they give. Your spirit knows. And that innate part of you that is connected to the greater consciousness and our ancestors doesn't lie. And that intuitive nature should be respected, it should be acknowledged, and it should be grown upon. Because Africans is our greatest superpower.
I love that. Absolutely love that. And you know, so you think that some of the examples that have been made of us in the past is still live with us as a community?
Absolutely. Well, it's twofold. One, they make very bestial examples. Two, there is a very serious elephant in the room. As African people, we don't speak about. We don't reward civic leadership. We don't reward civic leadership socially. We don't reward civic leadership economically. But white supremacy absolutely rewards African treachery socially and economically. They'll give you an OBE, a knighthood, and they'll also give you a position within government. And I would name 2 traitors who are perfect examples of this. And I'm not sorry, because we have to draw a line under the sand. Tony Saul will be called upon to legitimize their racism and act against us. And so will Trevor Phillips. But they didn't start out that way. They started out as champions for us, but we don't reward civic leadership, economically or socially. So that apprehension is also part of your gut intuition. I've been on this lonely road for 4 years and maybe started to build up momentum last year, but people would say, you're mad. What? And my missus, she'll say, you do this every day. You neglect your boy, you neglect me, and you're out there, you're having meetings. It's not normal. And it's possibly not normal. But that's where the ego comes in, because you can't do it without ego.
No.
But the ego that gets you in the room isn't the one that you need to remain in the room.
Wow. Oh, yes, that is so good. Oh gosh, that is so good.
Kicking indoors is one thing, but the man who kicks in the door isn't the spirit and nature that's required to stay in the room.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. That makes complete sense. And I guess maybe that has helped with the way in which you partner with so many different organizations and individuals. I guess you all offer something different to the mix and to what you're trying to achieve. Maybe tell us a little bit again about Manage. So you mentioned it, but you didn't kind of really go into it. So just elaborate on that for everyone.
So Manage is designed as a 24-week course, but we've got funding right now for a 6-week boot camp, which is the introduction. So that entails cognitive problem solving skills. We've got life coaches. We've got a business coach, martial arts teacher, Tai Chi meditation. So it's a very rounded program. And the key that we deliver within this is not only entrepreneurial leadership, but also civic leadership. Because we all say, when I make it, I'm going to give back and I'm going to become a philanthropist. You mean when you've got more to lose, mouths to feed, mañana, mañana, mañana. It never happened. So if you have the expertise, the alumni, because the key about Manage as well is it's delivered to 10 young men at a time. So 16 to 18, and then we separate 18 to 25. So they become a lifelong alumni, those 10 young men. Now, what we do at the end of that is incorporate a company for them where they get 10% ownership to work in sweat equity as an alumni. So you could be a creative, another guy could be a coder, somebody else might be a negotiator. You understand? Somebody might be sales. That's what makes up a corporate board. And these are the only things that are in front of us. We don't have the money to pay wages. But if you've been trained to survive within sweat equity, to create as many startups as you like, what's stopping you? There are no societal barriers to your self-determination once you have the information and the tools. So this is really about delivering the information, the tools. The martial arts side is to make guys physically confident. The Tai Chi meditation is about getting involved with your spirit, mind, and body, and observing the three so that you just become completely cognizant of that. And the other stuff is very practical. But then your soft skills, public speaking, negotiating, being able to read people's body language, all of this stuff is incorporated. So I would have wanted that at 20 years old. That would have been gold. So to get that in 6 weeks and then move to the 12-week purpose unearthing, which is really about getting to the core of what your blockages are. So when you say you feel that apprehension about wanting to jump into the rabbit hole and start to deliver your expertise, a life coach is going to get around what all of your blockages are. We have money blocks, we have relationship blocks, all of these things that we don't get rid of, our shadow selves, our childhood issues, the fear that we've consumed, parents telling us we can't do that, we've got to be twice as good, school telling us that's not realistic for us. So it's to cut through all of that tripe get to the core essence of you, your soul,
Mhm.
so that you know what your clear and determined purpose is. And then it's about creating a road plan, if you like, to being able to execute that. And then the last stage is 6 weeks as a mastermind, in teaching them how to work as a mastermind together and really get the best out of that sweat equity, utilizing the strongest talents of each of the personnel.
Wow. So fully comprehensive. I mean, that should be in the school curriculum. Do you know what I mean? That is like that
School
should
is
be what
important,
education should be.
but it's not education. You see, this is the conundrum.
Go on.
We go to school under the misapprehension we're being educated, and we're actually being indoctrinated. You see, you are rewarded for being compliant. So school teaches you fear, obey, comply.
Yeah.
And as you leave school, that's slightly modified in society, capitalist society: fear, obey, consume. And that formula is what we're taught by and large. We in Manage teach different formulas, and those formulas start from rites of passage, because Manage's role is really to pick up where rites of passage finishes off, specifically for those who desire to go into entrepreneurial and civic leadership. So rites of passage will teach you the same, to honor your community, your elders, and your family.
And so rites of passage, tell us a bit about that. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. So look, all culture, all ethnicities are obligated to uphold, promote, and preserve their culture. And then we're saying our children are running away from us. But if we're not doing anything to solidify their cultural values, why would we expect them to find them wrapped around us? You see, the draw is all out there. And then if all of our demonstrated values are external, because we're talking about money and materialism, then why wouldn't they just go out there and go far further ahead without the moral compass? So rites of passage gives you cultural validation, gives you a moral compass. It teaches you how to be a man or a woman within the home, what our respective roles are. Also in terms of relationships, to honor and respect our elders and the wisdom they can disseminate to us, to observe our cultural legacies such as Kwanzaa, the spirit of giving, receiving, serving. So really what it does for us is just shape us into the best citizens that we could be.
Love it. We've got
and
a
I just
question
think
here.
somebody put home education. Yes, I am a home educator.
Yeah, good. Well, that's actually my wife who asked that question. So we're home educators. So
we took my son out at 7. He's 13 now.
Wow. And was there a specific reason you took him out, or you just felt that?
Yes.
Okay.
Teacher bullying. So if you consider him Dino Kai Jr., Godzuki, they didn't realize that Godzilla comes when Godzuki's in trouble. I don't shout, I don't make too much noise, but you're aware of my presence, and you may feel a little sicky in your stomach. So I had fun for 3 days, and then we downloaded the statutory letter and sent it registered post. So the Wednesday was when I confronted the guilty parties, and Friday was half term. So from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I went and picked him up. It was an update on my phone. So so I had fun for 3 days, and then it was a wrap. Then they send the educational officer to come and see all of your teaching materials, and all of the African materials were there. This is amazing. Great. We don't need to see you again.
Love that. And was this so? I guess, did you put together like a curriculum of sorts, or you just showed them all the
You are not
just your
obligated
wealth
to
of
follow
knowledge?
their curriculum in any way, shape, or form. You can provide your children with whatever curriculum pleases you.
Right.
Because
And
when your children are 30, you will be to blame for their initial education, just as this system is to blame for their initial indoctrination. However, you'll be held to account and they won't. So it behooves you to do what's within your interests, not what the state recommends, which has rarely benefited our children.
yes, yes, yes. And so was it how have you balanced? Because obviously, and actually, yeah, let's talk about that. I know that you had your own store up until recently, right? You were, tell the audience again, I've been stalking you. Tell the audience about that.
So I had a clothes shop for 10 years on the high street in Camden. And I can't call it balance. At my best, I would teach my son for 2 days, and his mum would do the 3 days or 4 days. And she's taken 90% of the load. So I take very little credit. What I do take credit for in the business studies that we had, which pained him at the time. But now when I look at him as an entrepreneur with his PayPal, who's editing videos and charging money at 13 with his own account and his own skill sets and ability to monetize it, I don't care, because we're the ones who are going to be to blame. So the key isn't to push them where they don't want to go, but to champion whatever they do want to do. However, that thing's always got to make money. So business studies has always got to be in there. And I did tell him, and he may repeat it, if he ever got a job, I would kick him while whistling Singing in the Rain in the street and film it on my Samsung. So I don't envisage he'll be finding an employer outside of me anytime soon.
So this huge, right? This is great. So again, so you had your business for 10 years. Prior to that, were you always entrepreneurial, or did you have some jobs first?
I always had businesses. Every time a business went down, I'd get a job for 6 months to get the stake money to bet on myself again. Yeah.
Wow.
And so, in fact, I didn't do that when I had an office in Bishopsgate, which was an entertainment and training business. And when that went down, I taught myself web and graphic design from YouTube. So I didn't get another job when that one went down.
Wow. So this is phenomenal, because from an entrepreneurial perspective, like, people think it's the end of the world when everything has to work with this business, like everything has to work. But how many times have you reinvented yourself then, would you say? Like, I'm just thinking.
Yeah, it's a few, and I've lost everything I've had 3 times. So it will go like this: business goes down, no more money, things go into storage, flat goes, storage goes. Now we're starting from scratch.
Wow.
Yes.
And you've done that 3 times. And your wife has been with you each of these 3 times?
Well, I'm not married. My current partner I've been with 3 years. I'm not with my son's mum. We have a hospitable relationship. But that is enough. It's a big toll, brother, because especially me, I know my nature wasn't the best when I was down as well. I'm very much used to providing, and I don't like to take anything from anybody.
Right.
I don't want anything from anybody I can't take from you. So my pride was past my forehead. And in that position, when you're starting again, it doesn't happen overnight. Until you become very connected, that's a different matter. But until you build out that network, it's a long and arduous process.
Yeah.
Even this, in the manage, I am 4.5 weeks in. And it still takes time
Yes.
to build. It's taking me time to identify the young men for this course. So any young men who are interested in entrepreneurial or civic leadership, follow us on the Instagram, which is Manage Leadership. And you've got a link there that will sign you up. That also get the free podcast masterclass, which is a long distance learning, which will end up being hours and hours of African men who are successful in business and can share their working tactics, their wisdoms, their mechanisms, and exactly their route to market from absolutely nothing. All of these men are self-made.
Wow.
Nobody has inherited anything other than their surname. Me too.
Fantastic. And so we are, wow. So this is this idea of reinvention, this idea of, I guess, keep on going. I think what you said about as well, building out your networking, I think that's a real key point. And even in terms of like credit, because I'd say I'm 75% entrepreneurial. So a lot of the things I do is entrepreneurial. Only when I absolutely have to do I find a job. Even, you know, Templeway, what we're on now, I run this voluntarily. So this is just a passion of mine. But how have you found, this is a bit of a selfish question, guys, but bear with us. How have you found this idea of credit, right? And this idea of, because are you against the idea of credit, or do you embrace credit? Have you found it difficult to access credit, or would you prefer not to access it? And us as, you know, Black entrepreneurs, how would you suggest that should we work with credit? Should we not? What do you think?
Well, when it comes to working with credit, I traditionally haven't. So I tell people, don't ask me, ask somebody who works with credit. So like my brother Samuel, who is a property developer, now has an investment like a partner, so people can get a share of commercial properties to convert into HMOs and rent them out. So the rental revenue becomes the dividend. I always say, speak to people in the field. Somebody might say to someone who hasn't gone to university, should we go to university? Shouldn't we? They're not capable of answering your question.
Fair enough.
So I always answer it very honestly and say that traditionally I don't use it because I start businesses in a bootstraps way. Where if I identify finance, it's because that is a client.
Right.
And you take advantage of that. Even down to thinking about civic leadership. If you see grants or contracts with local authority, they are a client. Therefore, your business doesn't necessarily need the credit to start. It may be that you just haven't identified the correct model to generate revenue. So I always think about revenue as opposed to the credit. And I'll tell you why. Because I've been in the hole. I had 2 front shops in West Norwood and had 3 burglaries in 3 months in 2000 when I used credit. The first burglary was about 5 grand. The second burglary was about 9 grand. And I owed all of that without the stock and got no insurance. So that's not to put fear in anybody, because I also didn't have the correct mechanisms in place to claim the insurance that I was paying for.
Fine.
There's no substitute for experience.
No.
Some lessons are cheaper than others. It was definitely an education. But for me, I've always been more comfortable with bootstraps because if you start a business with credit, then you've now got a hole in the sand as opposed to starting on level ground. So sometimes there are 2 things that I recommend. If it's for business, I've got nothing against credit, but if it's for business, I recommend not necessarily getting a job, but surrounding yourself with the expertise in the field to get a peer education. Then when you master the peer education, identifying those who have the skills that you don't to come inside your business for a share of the sweat equity. That's how you realize the revenue stream, and you can attack it with different skill sets and different mind frames so that the business never becomes stagnant in your
Yeah.
thought when you get that block. And it just stays consistent and it has momentum. After you've identified, because there's nothing that beats a winning team.
No.
Never, if you listen to one thing in this, whether it is in an organization, in your church, in your business, in your house, never break up a winning team. Ever.
Jeez. All right. Wow. I've got some comments here. It's so good. Don't make sure it doesn't cut out. Keep an eye on the time, because our viewers are used to. We got 60 minutes exactly, and then Instagram cut off. Don't worry, guys. I'm watching the clock. We've got a question here.
Yep.
We've been told that faith and politics don't mix. How do we happily, I guess, connect our spiritual work? How do we connect these two, our spirituality and politics, for our progression? I hope I didn't make a mess of that question, but
I fully understand the question. Well, look, this is why we have to seek alternative systems, because especially in terms of ADPAC, is non-denominational, irrespective of people's gnosis. It is for their condition as Africans who may suffer a common fate. Right. So when we pool in our resources, whether they're economic resources, whether they are physical resources, like our personal time and expertise, what we're doing is we're committing our tithes to our community. The minute we do that as a people, look, you don't need to engage with the political system. When do you hear Chinese people saying you're not doing anything for us? They've got their own socio-economic ecosystem.
Yeah.
You go to Chinatown. Now, this is the thing about structure.
Yes.
Even the criminals and the young people who are committing crime, the proceeds go back into the community in a secular way, because it's an ecosystem.
Yeah.
Who cares who's in government?
Yeah.
Who cares what legislation is happening? You don't listen to any of that because you understand your sovereignty.
Yeah.
So if legislation tells Christians that they have to take a chip that was the metaphorical number from the Bible, would they do it? Many would, feeling the social pressures based on the indoctrination we get from school, which is fear, obey, comply. Compliance, because we're rewarded for compliance. There's the myth that Martin Luther King was a good man who would just let you slap him around. He was nothing of the sort. They take one little instance from his life and polarize it and put it on steroids and blow it up again and again and again.
Yeah.
He was a man and he stood for something, which is why they killed him. So, and no different from Malcolm X, who articulated it differently.
Yes.
And they had different roles, because it's very hard to create a mass movement once you acknowledge violence. Now, Tony Blair illegally invaded Iraq.
Yeah.
500,000 to 750,000 people died as a byproduct, and he didn't mention violence once. So I understand people of faith don't necessarily want to get involved with principalities, but the village has an ecosystem irrespective. And if we don't commit to the alternative, then there's only principalities left.
Oh, this is too good. Right. So this, it's telling us a minute and 50 seconds left. Oh gosh. Dean, I'm gonna have to call you on for a part 2 at some point. I know you're busy, I know you're in meetings, I know you've got a lot going on. But I just want to take this time to just thank you so much, brother, for saying yes, for being so willing, and for spending this time with us. People, if you're watching, please do connect with Dean. he's here on Instagram, he's here on Facebook. Just find him online and follow him and really do support. And I love the idea. What's sticking in my mind, I would love for this community to be part of that 250,000 people giving £5 a month. That in itself would be so powerful. So that's something we are more than happy to promote on our side. Just let us know how we can partner with you. I want to thank you so much for the knowledge, for the education. Thank you so much, Dean. I don't know if there's one more thing you want to leave quickly with us before it cuts you off.
Absolutely. And what I would say to you, since we are now delivery partners, we have no choice, we're obligated, is that within the faith department, because spirit is a very key part, and it is non-denominational, but all of us with a perfect suntan to contribute to that, and a newsletter that we want to put out every month that speaks to our humanity through our spirit. So I would very much invite you to be a writer on that and a contributor.
Absolutely, brother. I would love to. Thank you so much, Dean.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Anytime, and just love to you and your family. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. Great evening. And to the family, great evening.
Thank you, brother.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.